What's going on, everyone? Ains here, Seasoned Gaming, and we are finally back with a new hardware video. It has been a long time. I've had some other things going on, and we haven't done a lot of new videos in this vein, but I'm very excited to be back. We have a new camera working today. Hopefully the kind of resolution, the lighting, and everything is a little higher quality for you, which we're going to be looking to do going forward. But today we're going to begin by talking about a new controller review. In fact, the Razer Wolverine V3 Pro. So if you follow the channel, you follow me, you know we've done a lot of hardware reviews here. We've done a lot of controller reviews, and as someone who games pretty competitively regularly, I've gone through a lot of controllers. I have tried nearly all of them. And so I'm constantly looking to see when the new ones come out, especially these higher end ones, how they perform, what they're like, how the ergonomics, build quality, etc. So we're going to get into it today with the Razer Wolverine V3 Pro. So let me start by just talking about the offering here. This just came out, I think, a couple weeks ago. I've been using it for a little over a week now. This is officially licensed by Xbox for use on Xbox Series XS as well as PC. And it comes with a number of features right out of the gate that I think are going to be very notable to hardcore gamers. So you open it up, you get this nice kind of open box here. It comes in a hard shell case, which is pretty standard nowadays. And when you open it up, you get your controller, which I'll get to in a moment. You get two extra thumbsticks, one concave, one dome. It has a spot for the USB, which is the wireless mode I will talk about as well. Obviously comes with your instructions along with a high quality 10-foot braided cable for USB-C. So this retails for $199.99. It's currently available at Razer.com directly. They can ship to you, or you can find it at Amazon, Best Buy, and other retailers as well. So let's talk about what makes this controller kind of unique, special, and why Razer is kind of promoting this as a go-to competitive controller now. So talking about specific features on this Wolverine V3 Pro, one of the main things they're calling out is that the thumbsticks are now Hall effect thumbsticks. And that means that unlike the kind of pillars and all these traditional thumbsticks, these are contactless. And what that means over time, right, is that it prevents stick drift. And anyone who games competitively and has used controllers for hundreds or thousands of hours knows about stick drift, dead zones, things like that nature that you have to deal with. So the idea here being that Hall effect thumbsticks are becoming more and more popular in upper end controllers, and that's because they last longer, they don't have the same type of drift, and they're just better for competitive gaming in that sense. So that's notable. Like many other controllers, you can pop the thumbsticks on and off, and as I said, it comes with concave and domed controllers. The concave ones are very concave, which I like. They have a kind of a stiff ridge here. And are perforated on the outside, so if you're someone who really likes to kind of nestle your thumb in there or even play like a downward motion like I do, very strong for that. One of the most notable upgrades from the version 2 as well is that it now has new paddle design. These are 4 paddles built into the curve and handle of the controller, which are meant to line up with your middle and ring fingers like so. And they are have grips on them, just like the rest of the controller here with the grips. And they are also mouse click paddles. So they're very easy to activate, and they are very lined up with your fingers. Of course, I'll get to the ergonomics in a second. But the idea being that you know, the placement and activation of them is far advanced over their prior version 1 and version 2. Continues to have these M1 and M2 extra kind of claw function bumpers here, so sitting between your normal bumpers and triggers. And you can, of course, remap these to any functions that you like. So, for instance, I've been playing Halo. I actually remapped this M2 button to reload, so that my reload is right next to my shooting button, and I don't have to take my thumb off the thumbstick, and I prefer it to paddle, honestly. It also has this 8-way, what they call a floating D-pad. So it's a D-pad that's kind of elevated. It has your kind of standard 4-way design on the top, but it is really a kind of a 8-way, fully rotational D-pad. It's actually fantastic. It's one of my favorite features of the controller, and even though we don't typically use D-pads for more than menu navigation or things like that nowadays, I can imagine from a fighting game perspective, it could actually be useful. I've always found that normal D-pads aren't good for fighting games. I use a fighting pad or I use a stick. but I could actually see this one being very strong. So haven't had a good chance to fully test out the D-pad yet, and I want to see how that engages on various things. But I really like the design and the feel of it, and it's been really strong for just using the normal functions that I use it for. The triggers have your normal trigger stops, which we've come to expect. It's just open or closed right now. The trigger activation is really strong, but what's nice, similar to the SCUF that I've reviewed previously, is when you activate it, similar to the paddles, it is a mouse click trigger. So it has very little movement and nearly instant activation. The mouse click trigger and paddle are really, really nice, and I think that that's going to be the standard for kind of competitive controllers in the future. Just because SCUF's done it, and it just feels kind of more active, faster to engage, and more precise, if you will, than the standard just stops where the movement gets shorter but nothing else changes. So it's a nice feature. Outside of that, the one thing that's really notable about the Wolverine here is that the ergonomics are going to have to be unique to each person. Obviously, that's not a notable thing. That should be obvious. But if you look at what I reviewed previously in the SCUF Instinct Pro, basically what SCUF did is they took an Xbox Series X and S controller and modified the living hell out of it, right? So it's got all these unique features, and I won't rehash all of those again. But if I pull over a standard Series X and S controller, I don't know about you, but for me, ergonomically, this is the best controller, bar none. It fits my hands perfectly. Everything lines up well. It's incredibly comfortable to hold for extended periods of time. Never get any hand cramping, anything like that. It's just an excellent, excellent, excellent bass controller. Probably why I have like 20 of the damn things. If you look at something like the Elite 2, it's not actually based on the Series X and S controller. It's based on the Xbox One controller, as I think anyone watching this will know. The ergonomics are slightly different, but still excellent. Never had a problem with it, that sort of thing. The Wolverine is actually quite a bit different. It's thicker than the Series X and S controller. The handles are a little shorter, and they're a little chunkier. So when you go to hold this, it feels kind of meatier, if you will, in your hand. And so depending on your hand size, shape, etc., I don't know how this is going to fit you. For me, it is not as nice as the SCUF or the Series X and S controller ergonomically. I kind of have to hold it a little different. I wrap my hand a little bit different to make sure I can hit these paddles properly. And then I hold this a little kind of up and out a little bit, kind of similar to the DualSense Edge. I know it's a PlayStation controller, but you can of course use this on PC. This is a wider controller than the Xbox controller, and it's always made me kind of hold my hand out a little bit, like my palm away from the paddle, or the grip, excuse me. I feel myself doing that with the Razer a little bit. It's not that it's bad, it's that it just doesn't fit as nice as the Series X and S controller. But otherwise, it's a very, very nice design. The grip on it's nice. The material that it's built out of is nice. And all of the functions on it are very, very strong. Since using this controller, it took me a little while to get used to it, but I've really tuned it now for all of my gameplay. So I've used it on the Black Ops 6 beta, I've used it on Halo Infinite, X Defiant, Apex Legends, Concord, rest in peace. I've also used it on single player games like Black Myth Wukong, Angerfoot, some other games that I've been playing. And so I've really kind of put it through its paces over this last week. I would say dozens of hours just to really kind of hone in and get myself used to it. And it took a little getting used to. Both the grip, getting used to the thumbstick activation, and working through the Razer App that you can install to adjust settings. I've gotten there now, and I've really, really come to love this controller. It's not perfect, but it's really sort of getting close and giving you the features that you expect out of a controller in this sense. So a few other nice features it has too is, as I just mentioned, the Razer App, so you can install it on your PC, and it's not fancy, it's not really a great app, but it does allow you kind of do your basic functions as an accessories app, right? So it allows you to adjust the sensitivity and the movement rate of your thumbsticks, allows you to remap any of your buttons, and one of the really neat features this controller has too is, as you saw with the USB, you can use that on console or PC for this controller to be fully wireless. It uses a 250 megahertz mode, which is nice. No delay, kind of input lag, kind of preventing against those things. But more importantly, if you're kind of really into competitive gaming and gaming on PC, You use this in wired mode, and you can put it in a tournament setting, which is PC only, wired only, but it ups it to 1,000 gigahertz. So 1,000 megahertz, 1,000 gigahertz, excuse me, 1 gigahertz, which is 1,000 megahertz setting, to really just narrow down that, ultra microscopic time that it takes for functions to activate. That's primarily what I've been using it in since using it. And I will say that, again, after getting used to the controller, it has been very impressive. Additionally, it does kind of function with the chroma, so you can set up this where it says Razer and lights right there. I have it just rotating through different colors slowly, as you can likely see throughout this video. You can speed that up, slow it down, make it one color, whatever you want to do. And then this extra button, so it has the Xbox Series X and S share button. This extra button at the bottom basically allows you to remap inputs to the functions on the controller without the need of the app. So if you just want to quickly kind of do something quickly and say, I'm playing this game, I want to change my M1 button to be jump or reload or what have you, you can just hold that button down, activate it, switch it, and you're good to go. So it's another nice feature that Razer has added into this controller. That really about covers it. It's very hard for me to say what I like better between the SCUF and the Razer. The SCUF is also a $200 controller, but if you customize it with this color plate, these rings and everything, these things can get $250, $260, $280 before you know it. And generally speaking, from a build quality perspective, I actually think the Razer's nicer. Ergonomically, as I said, I think the SCUF's nicer because it's a Series XS controller. And I like some of the functions that it has on it. The paddles are really nice the way they are front to back like this, so forward and backwards. Whereas I often find myself hitting both of these at the same time. So if you're someone who uses all 4 of these paddles, you should be aware that just due to my finger placement, I don't know if yours will be the same, sometimes it's very easy to activate both of these triggers on one side while you're trying to activate one of them. So that's something to call out. I would also say I'm surprised that there's no option, at least today, for a taller stick. If you're someone who uses like a tall stick on the Elite 2, for example, they say that this concave one is taller than the dome, but it's not really what I would call a tall stick. It's more of a medium stick. That's a minor gripe, but if you're a competitive gamer, that may matter to you. But generally speaking, there's not a lot of complaints with this controller. It does not offer, I just want to call out, not that I think this matters to many people, but as you can see on both the SCUF and on the Elite 2 or Series XS controller, it still has the capability to use the old Xbox One mic or any of the inputs and headsets that may use that old plug-in functionality that began with the Xbox One. The Razer does not. It uses your standard kind of audio port only, or obviously you can use a wireless headset. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. But generally speaking, I've really enjoyed this controller. It has become my go-to controller. I'm going to continue using it for a long time. I can't obviously speak to the long-term durability of this. We don't know if we'll start to see any bumper issues, if the thumbsticks do develop any sort of issue over time, or the paddles for that matter. We do know, right? Anyone who's used an Elite 2 for an extended period of time will tell you there are issues. I've gone through several of these controllers, everything from bumpers stop working to serious stick drift to the grips peeling off. It's a fantastic controller, but durability is not its strong suit. The SCUF I have been using since I reviewed it. I use it regularly. It's got hundreds of hours on it now, and it's got a little wear and tear in terms of look, but I've had no problems with this either. No functionality issues. It still works perfectly. I love this controller. That said, the Razer comes with features that this controller doesn't, right? This doesn't have Hall effect sticks. It doesn't have a new kind of custom D-pad that is remarkably different from the Series X and S controller. It doesn't have the same level of quality in newer features that the Wolverine V3 Pro does. I expect, SCUF will continue to update theirs and they'll kind of leapfrog each other over and over again. There are, of course, options like the Battle Beavers, where you can customize yourself a Series X and S controller. But, I've seen problems with those. I've talked to people who have those, and over time they can develop issues, and then you're kind of stuck dealing with that as well. So I think the fact that this is an officially licensed controller with Xbox, you get a full year warranty on it. You can extend that if you go through a retailer, of course. It's just, it's a pretty good segment leader, I would say, in the space, and that's coming from someone who games competitively all the time and has used all of these controllers. So Shout out to Razer, shout out to the Wolverine V3 Pro. I think if you are looking or in the market for a series controller, definitely give this one a look. So you are aware, they have announced a tournament edition wired only version of this controller on their site, but there is no release date or price listed currently. I would suspect it's going to be a little bit cheaper because the actual thumbsticks, buttons, paddles, and everything are the same supposedly. So being wired only and not having the wireless option, I suspect it'll be a little cheaper if you want that option, but keep an eye on that. You can check out their site for more details. Otherwise, if you have any questions about this controller or anything else that I've mentioned, please let me know. Leave a comment. Like I said, happy to be back doing controller and hardware reviews, new setup. Let me know what you think about the quality of the video or anything else that comes to mind. As always, really appreciate the support here at Season Gaming. Thank you so much. Enjoy your gaming.